Hello Forza fans! Today I've condensed a very quick method for learning a new track into under 12 minutes, but the actual time it'll take you is around 30 minutes driving and around 10 to 20 minutes of analysis, so you'll get a new track down in just under an hour in most cases. We're picking a free play race with 0 opponents. This is important over a free practice session as we'll need easy access to the replay later on. I've picked the 2016 Mercedes just because I'm trying to level it up, but in your case just pick a car you find easy to drive. So we're here at Mid-Ohio Sportscar Course, a track I've never driven or learnt in any other game. It'd be pretty pointless to say this method worked if I knew this track already. We're keeping everything simple. So club rules, so you don't get damage or run out of fuel, is probably the best thing to do. Now here's the controversial bit. We're turning the full suggested line on. But trust me, you'll learn more than you think once you see this method. I've decided to turn ABS and traction control on too, because I don't want to interrupt my session with spins or car control issues, when all I'm trying to do is focus on learning the circuit. Again, you can either copy this or just do your own thing. I'll also set the fuel load to 5%, as club rules won't burn fuel, but the car will be at its lightest this way. Naturally pick soft tyres here if you're in a car that can take them. So it's time to hit the track. What I want you to do is mindlessly follow the racing line. So this is why this is controversial. Many sim racers and people in general will say you should never have the racing line on or something like that. But you get this advantage in a racing game that real drivers don't get. Now, real drivers will get other benefits, like they'll have somebody to go through the track with them, they'll have other drivers to talk to, they'll have various testing sessions and so on. But if you just want to hit the track online, I think this is honestly the quickest method of getting to grips with the circuit. So for the first few laps, you will literally be obeying the racing line, sort of no questions asked. I got things a little bit wrong there, but that's part of the learning process. But at this point, you're accelerating when it's blue, lifting off or getting ready to brake, or just dab the brake when it goes yellow. And when it's red, you better hit those brakes. And it's just a case of mindlessly obeying that to start with. You don't know your way around the circuit. Just follow the line and pay attention to what it's telling you in terms of the colours. After a few laps, you will start to notice things like certain landmarks, bridges. You'll have time to think down a straight and you'll sort of know when it's coming up to the braking point, and things will just naturally start to go in. But for the first like 3 or 4 laps or so, just follow the racing line. So I will show you here. Look, I was getting on the power a little earlier, so I was sort of going wider than the line was saying. I'll try and second guess this, or maybe I can take this a bit faster and get on the power at the crest of the hill, so I was way wider than the line was suggesting, and so on. So there'll be certain points where you try and push the limits of the line. Can you brake any later, and so on. And then, as you'll see here, lap 9 was my fastest. It was a 1:34.096. Now you go to the replay, and this is the really, really important bit in terms of learning. You go into chase view and you start to look at where the racing line was telling you to brake. And then you switch to the view that you drive in at the time to pick a reference point. So you take notes. So I'm going back into the cockpit view that I normally drive in, and I see here that it's just before the 100 board. That's probably the biggest hint at where I should be braking. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll brake before the 100 board. That's the thing to do. So I'll hit play, go back into chase cam, and then find the braking point for the next corner. And I'm going to do this for you because this is the most important part of the learning process. So we're going to go through the whole lap of my thought process here. So you can pause it with the keys or with the pad if you're on Xbox. And again, that's just before the 100 board. So that's quite easy. So the first 2 corners, just before the 100 board, not much to remember there. Then you can go around the corners sort of however it feels comfortable. If it doesn't feel like it's going to wash out wide, you can get on the throttle and so on. Sometimes you can learn tracks in terms of a braking point and a turn-in point and a back on throttle point. But for now, I think just learn the learn the breaking points, and the rest should come naturally. You can fast forward and rewind in this view quite easily if you're in the game cameras mode. And you'll notice that that comes on just around about the 400 board. It's just gone out of my view in cockpit cam. So I'm thinking, okay, so that's the 400 board there. So I've got a 100 just before the 100, just before the 100, and then at the 400 when the car gets level with that. Then I'll go back into chase cam. Where do I have to brake for this one? You'll see that there's a Honda board there on the left. And when I go into cockpit view, oh look, the Honda board's just disappeared. So that's another great reference point. Not every corner has fantastic reference points and markers, but you'll start to notice things like 100-meter boards or lighting around the track, or a certain barrier changes from red to white or something like that. This one's been fairly simple because a lot of them have coincided with actual boards on the circuit so far. As you can see, this one, I touched the brake after the car has passed the 50 board. So that's another pretty good reference, as is the tarmac changing colour there as well. Then we're on the throttle through here. And then we'll want to get a bit of brake through this corner. And then we'll want to be heavier on the brakes pretty much as we get to the yellow curb there, by the looks of things. So we can just rewind the action. We were on a little earlier. Yeah, there come the brake lights. So we'll go back into the view we're driving in. The reference point is just before the yellow curb. That seems like a pretty good one there. And then we get on the throttle over the crest. Go back into chase cam view. And the next one, the brakes come on just before the 200 board. Just need some confirmation of that. So we go into the cockpit cam again. Yep, just before the 200 board is a good braking point there. And then the last couple of corners are a little more tricky here, because you kind of slow down early on and then get back on the brakes for this even slower corner that goes onto the start-finish straight. So you get a little dab of brake and then you go on the brakes again. Now that seems to coincide with the cockpit view of the tarmac changing colour again. So just before the tarmac changes colour, you could also use a reference point like that lighting pole that's right in the middle of your view at that point. That's also quite a good one. But I think the tarmac changing colour is a pretty solid one, because you'll probably be able to see that in most conditions. And then it's slow around here, and we know that it's just full throttle then across the line. So that's how you analyze your replay, and you've got all these things in your mind, and you go to restart race, turn the suggested line off, and off we go. Now I'm going to talk you through the first lap. It's not going to be quick because it's a standing start, but I'm going to go through this, and you just talk either out loud or in your brain before the 100-meter board. I actually got it a little wrong there because I thought I'd be slower going into the first corner because I'd come from a standing start rather than a rolling start. But it was essentially correct. So you just talk to yourself, no matter how mad it sounds, or no matter how mad you sound to anybody else in the house, you just talk it through. So all the things you just learned by watching your own replay, of course you can do it multiple times. You can go through the replay more if you need it. If it's a little bit of a harder track or there's more corners to learn or something like that, you can spend more time in the replay, of course. 400-meter board. That's what I'm telling myself. There it is. Brake. We go into the corner. I get the gearing wrong. The Honda board on the left. Brilliant. 50-meter board. Excellent. And then it's not full throttle, but it's, throttle or slight lift. And then just before the curb on the brakes. Then you get back on the throttle over the crest, because even though it's blind, you can trust it. And then I'm thinking 200-meter board here on the fence. There we go, on the brakes, turn in. And then this one's a little more tricky. It's going to be a bit of slowdown. And then just before the tarmac changes colour, back on the brakes, because this is a slow corner. My God, we've done it. We've talked ourselves through a lap. No racing line. We're already getting to grips with this circuit. And basically, keep repeating. Talk it through in your head as long as you need to. And the lap times will coming down. And as you can see, I've got basically level with my best time. Then on lap 9, I beat my best time with the racing line. So it was a 34.0 with the racing line on, a 33.7 with the racing line off, and this is my 10th lap, so my 20th lap overall. We had 10 with the racing line on, 10 with the racing line off, and this is going to be my fastest lap. So I'm just going to talk you through it, because now I've got pretty confident. You know, I've started to learn things for myself. I've started to learn whether the car's going to wash out wide, where I can feel a bit more confident on the throttle. Obviously, I'm thinking 400 meter board. There we go. Get on the brakes there. Bring it round the corner. Honda board. All this stuff has gone in. So as you can see, even with the racing line on, I learned a hell of a lot. So don't let people say, oh, you'll rely on it too much. Yeah, if you leave it on, you will. But if you go through this method, you will learn the track straight away. And just before the curb, on the brakes, back on the throttle, we're up by almost 3/10. 200 meter board, left turn in, carry a bit more speed through there. And then we come to the end of the lap, just before the tarmac slow right down. And then over the line. So that's my really easy method for learning a track. And what did we get? We beat our previous time look of 33.3. So we're 7/10 faster than we were with the racing line. And yep, we can still get faster. We can still push track limits more, but we know the track now and we can move on from there. So you can be one of life's winners, just like me. Yeah, top step, baby. So if this video has helped you out, I'd love you to comment below and like the video. And then here's another video I think you'll enjoy too.